Good evening, early birds. When will we start? We will start in, let's see, we'll never start. About 15 minutes, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Yeah, 25 seconds. Cheers. Happy Martin Luther King Day to the early birds. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock here in the northeast of the United States. This is the Tibet Center, Kunchap Tarduling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey, under the overall direction of Chabje Ling Rinpoche and the direct direction of by Rato Kempo, Rato Kempo Nicholas Vreeland, Tupten Lunda. And this is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma, specifically the Lamrim Chenmo stages on the path to enlightenment. If you have problems with any of the light, sound, etc., text me or Mr. Darren Smith. If there's anyone for whom you wish us to pray for when we do the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels, place their names in the comment box as soon as possible. Again, I have a small comment box because the picture takes up a lot of room, so I don't see everyone's name, but others will see, and that will suffice. We have a lot to do tonight, a little bit of a variety, and then right into the place where we left off, the 10th chapter of the Lam Rim Chenmo, Volume 3. Prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teaching flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West, for all the people living here, together with their near ones who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them. May all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon, and especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness. May they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time the Blessed One entered the samadhi which examines the dharmas, called profound illumination, and at the same time noble Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating, awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the bodhisattva mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. Refuge and Bodhisattva vow, which we recite 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge through the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. May all the pains of living creatures ripen solely upon myself, and through the might of the Bodhisattva Sangha, may all beings experience happiness. May the teachings which are the sole medicine for suffering and the origin of every joy be materially supported and honored and abide for a very long time. I prostrate to Manjagosha, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. And now, as a cause for the quick return of Rato Chungla Rinpoche, we recite His Holiness Dalai Lama's prayer for that purpose, called Prayer for a Swift Return. I have to keep the cat out of the way, otherwise she'll go on the keyboard and knock us out. It's too much. I can't handle it anymore. Too old for this. Get. Exalted wisdom of all victors, gathered in a drop soul, refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lozang Tuguang Dorje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the victor Lozang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guest in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? A rhetorical question. Though impossible for you till cyclic existence's end to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta, drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Losang Tenpe. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimata Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Hey, get out. And don't you knock over the books or my espressos over there. Good, you don't have a chance of that. Hey, my God, you know? So, we have quite a lot to do. Lori, I hope you're feeling better. You're in our hearts, and we won't forget. We have a little bit of attention deficit meditation, which we're famous for here at the Tibet Center. Yes, we've patented it. What does that mean? It's a bit of a snide remark, but it means something, a short thing you don't have to work too hard, that really helps you in daily life. Well, first of all, we'll start with advice from, and this is it, about 15 lines. Ziga Kongtrul Rinpoche's book, Training in Tenderness. Tenderness is the translation of the Tibetan word Thewa, and I'm not pronouncing it right. Tenzin's probably laughing, but I'm sorry, Tenzin. I'm doing my best. Tsewa is the way they transliterate it into English. It means like a good heart, a tenderness, so whatever. So here's a quick thing to put our lives in perspective. This is from page 15 of this book. The kind of external happiness with which most of us are obsessed can never be sustained. You think about it line by line, it's interesting. If you depend on someone praising you, someone giving you a gift, someone making you into a big deal, you are investing in unsustainable happiness. If you feel elated when these things appear in your life and depressed when they're absent, that is a form of addiction. I love to hear that. It is a form of addiction. If you think of how your mind starts to turn in that direction. It's not that we should reject these things when they do come around. But if we hold on to them tightly, mistaking them for the source of our well-being, we are setting ourselves up for pain. So, when they do come to us, it's wise to take them with a grain of salt. He has the American idiom down. We should think twice before allowing ourselves to become emotionally dependent on fulfilling our external desires. Because it's a stacked deck. This is samsara. The nature of samsara, nothing lasts, nothing is certain. You can't rely on things like that. So why invest all your deep happiness in that? Invest in the 3 jewels. It's a sure thing. Been going on for years. So that's the brief deficit meditation, attention deficit meditation, or whatever you want to call it. A little snippet. This is a little bit of Milarepa, short, because we couldn't get him for a whole production. He was booked. I spoke to his agent. Anyway, this is from Losang La Lungpa's, Lobsang or Losang La Lungpa's Life of Milarepa, a very old book, but it's still out. It's in a different cover, but it's the same thing. This is from page 132. When I arrived at Dingri by the Chuwa Road going through Paikyu, I sat down by the side of the road and watched what was going on. Some pretty young girls wearing jewels passed me on their way to Nokme. I don't know where that is, but that's where they were going. Seeing my emaciated body, one of them said, "Look, what misery! May I never be reborn as such a creature." Now, he was green from the nettles, pale, very little clothes, sometimes, practically naked. So they saw that. Another one said, "How pitiful! A sight like that depresses me." You can imagine them in their jewelry and everything. So I thought to myself, Milarepa says, I have compassion for these ignorant beings, and feeling pity, I stood up and said to them, "Daughters, do not speak in this way. There is no reason for you to be so distressed. You could not be born like me, even if you wished." It is astonishing that you feel compassion, but your compassion comes from pride and wrong understanding. Listen to my song. Then I sang to them. I invoke the compassionate Marpa, grant me your blessing. Sentient beings engulfed by their bad karma show no respect to others, but only to themselves. Unfortunate girls, you have faith only in ordinary life. Your self-esteem and wrong perception burn like fire. I feel pity for such immature beings. In these dark days of the Kali Yuga, degenerative time, deceitful people are honored like gods. Hypocrites are praised more than gold, and the faithful are rejected like stones on the road. I have pity for such confused beings. You, proud young girls, my sisters, and I, Milarepa of Gungtang, we are disturbing each other. Let us compare our pities, and by tilting the lance of compassion, see which will be victorious in the end. To those ignorant ones indulging in idle talk, Milarepa replies by teaching the Dharma. He returns wine for water. He returns good for evil. So I spoke. The young girl who had been moved to pity for me replied, "It is he who is called Milarepa. We are all full of self-esteem. We have said many unwise things. Now let us ask his forgiveness." I gave special advice to this girl. Then she offered me 7 shells, and all the girls prostrated themselves and asked for pardon. In response to their quest for instruction, I sang this song. I invoke the compassionate Lama, meaning Marpa. I offer the sacred Dharma in brief song. Above, in the celestial mansion of the Devas, conventional doctrine is preferred. True doctrine is ignored. Below, in the palace of the serpent gods, worldliness is preferred. The profound teaching is ignored. In the middle, on man's earth, false teachers are preferred. Authentic teachers are ignored. In the four regions of U and Sang, this is parts of Tibet, teaching is preferred. Meditation is ignored. In the dark days of Kali Yuga, wicked people are preferred. The good are ignored. In the eyes of these beautiful girls, the handsome man is preferred. The hermit is ignored. In the case of these young girls, this brief song sounds pleasant. The profound Dharma, unpleasant. These are my instructions in song. This is my response to the gift of the 7 shells. This is the celebration of your forgiveness. So I sang. The girls believed me in me and went their way. Then I too left the region of Drin. I had heard of the caves of Chuan Chipuk, and I stayed at the cave castle of the sun at Chipuk and meditated there. Brief, but they got a break. They're lucky girls, lucky women, whatever they are, who knows. Yeah. So it's interesting. Mulrepa's sister went to see him and she said, "You're embarrassing me. Why don't you become like these lamas in town with a lot of followers and they teach on a throne? And here you are." And she made him some clothing to cover his nakedness, and he gave her hell. Oh well. All right, we're back at work, but we'll go back to the chapter 10, and we're going to Geshe Sopa's commentary where we left off on the 9th, was the last time. We'll do a little bit of this, and then we have this supplemental material called Insight into Emptiness by Khensa Jampa Tegchok. I'll do about 2 pages, 3 pages from there because it's relevant to this material. We're talking about the object you negate when you meditate. Again, we're meditating on emptiness, so let's find emptiness. We're looking for inherent existence, basically. So we'll take it from there. So what do we get rid of to see that there's finally no inherent existence? What do? We don't want to throw out regular existence. We're all here. We can't say, no, you don't exist. Or rather, who's talking? We got that. Okay. So let's Geshe Sopa on page 74 of his LAM Rim 5. There are countless objects of negation, though we do not need to negate each one individually. If we negate their shared root, we would negate them all. What are we negating? Their assumed mode of being. Everything we see, hear, etc., so we assume a certain mode of being for it, namely inherent existence. We would show with certainty to ourselves that there is no inherent existence. That's the problem to solve. No inherent existence of the table, of the roof, of your Tesla, whatever, of yourself. So that's what he's talking about. If we negate their shared root, we negate them all. Consider again the example of a rabbit horn. I mean, they got to come up with new stuff. I'm tired of the rabbit horn. And don't forget, we're going to hear from the son of the barren woman. However, we have the daughter of the barren woman from the Tibet side. We're doing that one. Never mind. We have a fairly clear general idea of a rabbit horn, right? We know what a rabbit horn would be if it existed. Follow him because it's important. Would be if it existed. When we prove that a rabbit horn in general does not exist, then we will have negated all possible varieties of rabbit horns, beautiful rabbit horns, long rabbit horns, sharp rabbit horns, battery-powered, no, and so on. This is important. Jalsab J's commentary on valid knowledge says, this is Tsong-kha-pa's, one of his 2 main disciples, Jalsab and Jalsab Dharma Rinchen, I think it is, and Kedra. Anyway, Jalsab says, you should tell those people untrained in the skills of reasoning, who assert that valid knowledge cuts superimpositions like the fangs of the musk deer, that when you understand the generality be absent, then you necessarily understand its instances to be absent. No, we don't know what a musk deer is, but we got the point. You negate, there's no possibility of the son of or daughter of a barren woman. You negate any possibility of the one with red hair, the one with green hair, the one with pierced ears, the one with pierced whatever. All right, page 75. In other words, this looks like beating around the point, but it's very important because we have to adjust our minds because we have assumptions about emptiness, etc. We have to clear them out and be very precise and targeted when we sit down to meditate. First conceptually, and then if you have a calm, abiding mind, that'll break and you'll have direct. So in other words, when we cut away false notions, we do not need to eliminate them one by one. Like a musk deer, I have no idea what a musk deer does, that grazes by nipping one blade of grass at a time. Logical reasoning does not work that way. Rational argument negates all the instances of a generality at once by eliminating their common root, the generality itself. So then any particulars are out the window too. Okay? Consider the example of this daughter of a barren woman. We're going to take it to him here. There are innumerable objects of negation here, such as her tall daughter, her handsome son, her clever son, and so on. All these attributes are connected to being predicated on the barren woman's son or the barren man's son, whatever. In other words, you eliminate that person can't exist. How could a son of someone who can't give birth exist, or a daughter of someone who can't? So that's that. You don't have to worry about it anymore, particularly you threw the whole thing out. That's all he's getting at. That's simple. I think we have that. We do not need to negate each attribute individually. The parameters of the criterion we use to negate things as ultimately or inherently existent are very precise. We must recognize how something would exist at the subtlest level if it were to exist inherently. If we do not understand the subtlest general idea of inherent existence, then some aspects of inherent existence will not be eliminated. If you don't know do it totally, you still have some remnants, and it will not result in a direct experience of emptiness or non-inherent existence. No? For example, even when we understand the level of negation reached by the Vaibhashikas, we are still holding things to be inherent existent. The Vaibhashikas say that the ultimate truth is something that the smallest particles. When you take something and you break it so that its former thing doesn't appear to your sense input, etc., you can't, like a vase. You take a vase, take a hammer to it. There's no vase there anymore. But what's left, those little particles, that's inherent. That's not inherent. Those particles have their own problems. But that's the first school. So following the different schools, you get a sense of how precise the object of negation is. Negate, negate, negate. Grasping at this false way of existence is to fall to the extreme of eternalism. You didn't get rid of everything. You're still believing there's something solid there. Those little parts, that's it. No. If we do not negate the subtlest notion of, quote, inherent existence, we will not be able to free ourselves from samsara. The stakes are high. So, we must also be careful not to fall to the extreme of nihilism and deny the existence of something that is, in fact, there. Nihilism cuts out too much and holds existent things to be non-existent. If our definition of truly existent is too broad, not only do we negate inherent existence, but we may also even negate existence itself. It is too much to assert that inherent existence means mere existence. If it did, then to say that all things are empty of inherent existence would be to deny the existence of causality and the 12 links of dependent arising. There's legitimate, conventional reality where this causes that, etc. There's causality. We would end up negating everything. The extreme view of nihilism is worse than the extreme view of eternalism. Why? The extreme view of eternalism does not contradict the existence of causality. It holds causes and effects to exist in addition to their superimposed appearance as inherently existent. This is a case of grasping at existence too much, but it's less dangerous. This is a little less dangerous than the nihilistic view, holding existent things to be totally non-existent, because if we negate everything, then we cannot posit any virtue and non-virtue or karma and its results. Thus, we deny that it would be possible to create the causes of a good future life or any other positive goal in the future. Such negative views and negative actions would lead us to lower rebirths. So the stakes are high there too. In conclusion, the end of 75. It is most important to identify the object of negation, because if we do not define it properly, we will definitely fall to the extreme views of, you guessed it, eternalism or nihilism. We need to know how far we can go in negating things. Am I ruining the picture here? Of course, whatever I do. Yeah. We need to know how far we can go in negating things and the point beyond which we can't go. So it's very precise, like I said before. We have to identify the middle way that is free of extremes. Therefore, we need to know what the extremes are and what makes something an extreme view. This kind of approach is very useful. Now, to flesh out the meaning of that a little more in terms of actual practice, we have this wonderful book that everyone praises. Jose Cabazon, Lama Zopa likes this book. Kathleen McDonald, Sanjay Kadro, one of the best teachers around from Sravasti Abbey. Guy Newland. What an all-star show, huh? Most people haven't heard of these people. This is Insight into Emptiness, Khensa Jampa Tegchak. It's translated or interpreted by the Buddhist monk Steve Carlier and edited by Bhikshuni Thupten Chodron. This is a book from, I think, 2000, when is it? 12, I think. Yeah, 2012, like 10 years old. Very useful. So we're going to work from the section called Object of Negation, and identifying the object of negation. Same topic. This is page 156 of this particular text. He starts with quoting Chandrakirti, your favorite and mine, right? Chandrakirti says, in his supplement to the Middle Way, having seen with intelligence that afflictions and faults, without exception, arise from the view of the perishing aggregates, and having realized that the self is the object of that, yogis refute the self. You've heard a lot about the Jikten, they call it, the shorthand in Tibetan, the view of the perishing or transitory aggregates. There'll be a lot more on that. I don't want to flesh it out now because it would take too much time. But we misidentify the mental and physical parts of our body in the world and tag it with some sort of false mode of being. And on the basis of our own aggregates, etc., we posit a self, and that self is assumed to be inherently existent. That's all. Page 156. Khensa Jampa Tegchak starts. He's from Sera Monastery. I think Sera J or Sera May. No, he also holds an Acharya degree, Sera J. So, identifying the object of negation at the beginning of our meditation is crucial. Ascertaining the object of negation is extremely important because if we haven't understood well what is to be negated, we won't be able to ascertain its non-existence with precision. Same thing Geshe Sopa says, they're all shooting the same order, well, for good reason. That's the way it's supposed to be. For example, suppose somebody robs us and we don't know anything about the robber. When we look for him in a group of people, we will not be able to say decisively whether he is there or not. Similarly, if all we know about the robber is that he is bald, we will not be able to identify him definitively. We have a general idea, but not precise. He's getting at the point of how do you have to be precise. We risk searching for the robber in the east when he has run to the west because we aren't quite sure where to look. However, if we can identify the thief clearly, when we go to look among a group of people, we will be able to say, yes, there he is, the person is here, that's him, Your Honor, or officer, or whatever. Or no, he's not here. It is similar when we think, I am or am not truly existent. You know, we throw these words around. But we don't know the meaning of true existence. So we have to get used to that. Very, very good advice here. Since the object of negation does not in fact exist, what? We're getting rid of something that doesn't exist? Ugh. But we imagine it exists. It cannot since the object of negation does not in fact exist, it cannot actually be ascertained. Key word, because ascertainment implies a valid mind realizing an object that exists. Can't be ascertained. Well, what then does ascertaining the object of negation mean? It means gaining certainty about the way in which the object of negation would exist if it did exist. So this is a strange game we're playing here. It's not that, oh yeah, now I know what it looks like. Would exist if it did exist. So why the trouble? Because we're assuming that it exists. That's the problem. We're getting rid of our assumptions. False misread of reality, false assumption. That's the problem. And we don't want to get rid of those. It's a product of the ego, and the ego wants to hold on to its turf. Hey, yeah, looks like that. I don't know. We're making it too simple. In other words, what would things be like if they were inherently existent? That's simple. If they existed from their own side. That's Tibetans like to use that thing. So our understanding of the object of negation must not be just on the level of words. Oh boy, very true. It is not so useful in itself to say, a truly existent I doesn't exist. Ha ha. We may even be able to recite all the reasons why something cannot inherently exist. But if we haven't analyzed the meaning ourselves, there is not much effect on our minds. You can't just parrot back. This is not university education. You parrot back, you get your mark, you run away. Not here. We're working with the biggest assumptions of our minds. Our minds are not going away. They're eternal. Goes the next life. So straighten it out now. So this is a big point. We haven't analyzed the meaning ourselves. There's not much effect on our minds. So you have to do the work of hearing the words, finding what do they mean? Oh no, he didn't mean that. He mean, oh good. So that's why we do a lot of reading. We do talking with people who know what they're talking about. Basically, if you have a good teacher with experience. So, to derive the greatest possible benefit from meditation on emptiness, we need to have a clear image of what a thing would be like if it were truly existent. And we need to have searched for a truly existent I and not found it. But seriously search. There's no, I know the answer. There's no, yeah, that ain't getting anywhere. That's not going to work. I tried it. Here I am still reading from books. Boo. Anyway, page 157. Enough fooling around. We have work to do. Although Geshe is a Geshe too, but Kensa Tekchuk goes on. Although inherent existence does not exist, it appears to us. Now we're getting somewhere. It appears to us. Oh, that's what's appearing. Normally, we do not question how objects appear to us and how we grasp or apprehend them to exist. We don't, and unless we heard some Buddhist teachings, we wouldn't have. I mean, I didn't go through school thinking, things don't inherently exist. No. Everything, what I saw, I know what I saw, shut up. Now they're telling us, you saw something, but you didn't really see. So, thankfully the Buddha gave us these teachings, and the lamas showed up. Especially Tibetan lamas suffered so much, and we're benefiting, coming out of their country, etc. So, we've got a good opportunity here. Our good karma brought us here. Let's not waste it. We don't question how things appear. Now, we must begin to observe and recognize the way in which things appear to the true grasping mind and the way that mind apprehends or grasps them. Two sides of the coin. The things look inherently existing, and we have a true grasping mind, the mind that thinks it's inherently existing, looking at, there they are. So, then, through the various lines of reasoning, we explore if inherent existence could possibly exist. So that's the reason for all these reasons. That's the reason Rinpoche Bodhisattvas meditate on emptiness with many reasons. So hold on. Pardon me, I'm getting a little hoarse. No. I have forced air heat here and it's really blasting. Not that cold that I don't know why, but so it dries you out. In the meditation on emptiness, second paragraph, page 157, the first essential point involves ascertaining the inherently existent I that appears to and is grasped by the innate I grasping mind as existence from its own side. I'll repeat that question again. Those lines again. In the meditation on emptiness, the first essential point involves ascertaining, a key word, the inherently existent I that appears to and is grasped by the innate I-grasping mind as existing from its own side. That's an ignorant mind. That's ignorance. It is called the aspect I, because it is the I that is the aspect of the mode of apprehension of the innate eye-grasping mind. That kind of mind creates this thing. You didn't have that kind of a mind. You had a true mind that saw reality. You wouldn't have these objects that appear inherently existent. So you see the reciprocity between object and mind, subject and object. Bear that in mind. This mind grasps the conventionally existent I, the I that does exist, yeah, you, me, Harry, George, in the aspect of inherent existence. It tags that with inherent existence. The aspect I, it's called that. He's using this term. I've never heard that before except in this book. Although I've heard in that nature, their bliss and voidness, an aspect of the offering, some things like that in all the prayers. But I didn't realize, haven't seen the word used this way, and how important it is to think along these lines. The aspect I is also the apprehended object of the self-grasping mind. It is the I that is the object of negation when meditating on the selflessness of persons. Again, we are not refuting the existence of the conventionally existent I. So hold your horses there. Don't go nuts. Next paragraph, 157. While the various philosophical terms and ideas above give us a sense of the object of negation, we should not think that the object of negation is some strange phenomena with a horn growing out of its head that we have to search for in a faraway place. Please with the horns, we had enough. Unless it's a trumpet or a sax, So we should not think that the object of negation is some strange phenomena with a horn growing out of its head that we have to search for in a faraway place. Self-existence appears to us right now. You, me. Things appear truly existent to us in this very moment. When we become angry, upset, jealous, or excited, or when we crave for and cling to something, the grasping at inherent existence is present. Without this grasping, no afflictions. That's the oxygen supply for all the afflictions and bad thoughts, etc. Here we are. We need to look at the way the I appears to us at those times. The innate, inherently existent I that we hold, that we create, and we think it's there. Doesn't come out of its shell too often, but when there's an extreme situation, it does. He'll explain. Skill is required to recognize in our own experience how the I appears to the innate I grasping mind to exist from its own side, completely independent of causes and conditions, independent of parts, and independent of being labeled by name and concept. The subtlest dependency, name and concept, dependent on parts, dependent on its physical cause, subtlest, dependent of, not dependent by being labeled, and independent rather, of being labeled by name and concept. There'll be more of that, or what they used to call a designating consciousness, another term for that. It is easier to ascertain the object of negation, an inherently existent I, when it appears vividly to the mind, like staining a slide. You could see, oh, there it is, there's the bacteria. So when it appears vividly to the mind. For example, suppose someone comes along and accuses you of having caused some great harm when in fact you are entirely blameless. Oh, we're back in school. We're back in the army. At that time, you are likely to have a very vivid and strong sense of I. You may think to yourself, I didn't do that. Boiling over. Why are they blaming me? Yeah. During such times, there is a very vivid appearance of me, existing from its own side, completely independent of causes and conditions, completely independent of anything else. No wonder you feel aggravated. That's a very claustrophobic situation to be in. This I, this fortress I, which really doesn't exist that way, it's causes and conditions and it next thing's coming up. So we're suffering needlessly. We're not understanding the lack of inherent existence of this ego I, the egotism or whatever. Geshe Sobo calls it egotism. He gets right to the point. So here's another situation, bottom of page 157. You couldn't wait, right? All right, here's another situation in which the inherently existent I appears vividly. Suppose you have helped someone many times in many different ways, but he repays your kindness by insulting you to your face, stealing something valuable from you, and spreading lies about you behind your back. You're at work, in other words. At this time, too, you have a strong sense of I, thinking, I've done so much for this person, and now look how he treats me. He has been taking advantage of me. Whine, whine, complain, jump up and down. Too heavy with the me, too heavy with the I. We all do it. I mean, I'm not above this. But we have to learn the true status of the I, the true status of the world around us. What a relief if we could really grasp it that way. Not grasp, but understand it that way. Grasping is a bad word. At this time, you can clearly observe the inherently existing I to appear to the innate I grasping mind. You can also clearly observe the mind grasping the appearance as inherently existent. It takes some training, because when these things happen, you're exploding, and that's that. I mean, you don't have time to go, oh, I don't inherently exist and all that. My cat's yelling. It's part Siamese, so at certain times of day, it strikes the clock. You're off by 10 minutes, Babette. In these situations, you are usually too caught up in your emotions to pay attention to how the I appears. It's like when you get angry, it's too late to have, oh, I should practice patience, I should do this. No, that's too late. These meditations, like on anger, etc., are like vaccines you take when you feel okay to prevent these things from happening. This teaching now we're hearing in a calm moment and trying to inculcate it deeper and deeper so that when these incidences appear, they'll appear with less strength, less force, and maybe we won't even bother with them. We'll just handle them very skillfully so that the other person isn't hurt. Big deal, you know. So, not easy. I understand, you know, I'm trying myself, but not easy, but sounds good. However, in meditation, you can recall such a situation and allow the emotion to arise. So you replay the event instead of, bastard, and throw things across the room. No. All right, something to work on now. All right, I'm bubbling over. I just created this whole scene, and here I am getting mad again, but it's not the same. I caused this. I'm writing the scene. I'm watching the play out. So now I can move this around and have a different attitude towards the situation. That's how a meditation should go. That's how Shantideva's book works. Somebody hurts you, etc., and you go through a lot of reasonings. Oh, this person, they'll even hurt themselves. They're not in their right mind. It's not. You do all those things. When you replay these horrible things that happen to you, slowly, by taking a different attitude, the mind does change. And it changes so that a point of attack in the future, you won't be as reactive. So we have tools in our toolbox now, thanks to the Buddhas and the teachers that came here. Then, let the emotion arise. Then what do? Here's the technique. With one corner of your mind, observe how the I seems to exist, like you're peeking in. This I is the object of negation. So you get some good out of these horrible situations. You bring them back to your meditation workshop. And now you put them on the table and watch the experiment run. And then, oh, that's the object of negation. Out! Raus! You know. With practice in meditation, you can then try to apply the same technique in the moment such a situation is happening. With practice, you know, with discipline, with a firm mind, etc. And also, if your values aren't going along with the values of the world, you have a leg up. So what do we get excited about, this stuff? I didn't get a gift, so who cares? When I die, everything goes anyway. Things like that should be, put the right value on the right things. Takes a lot of pain out of life. Here's another exercise. We had enough. We don't want any more. Here's another exercise. Imagine walking along a very narrow precipice. On one side, imagine a huge drop into icy water. On the other, an equally steep fall into a fire. Oh, what a party. As you walk, a very strong sense of the inherently existent I that is in danger of falling appears to the mind. Yes, we may have had this. For instance, you're on the subway. So, guys that live in Manhattan or New York, you have plenty of opportunity. With one corner of your mind, observe that I and how it appears to exist. It seems as if it exists independently, having nothing to do with its causes and conditions. Its parts, it had nothing to do with its causes and conditions, nothing to do with its parts, or the mind that conceives and labels it, the designating consciousness. By repeatedly doing this kind of exercise, you will become aware of how the I appears to the innate eye-grasping mind. Great fear brings it, in other words, what he's saying. In times of great fear, there's a strong grasp. That's why there's fear. If we saw ourselves as non-inherently existent, I don't think we'd have fear. I don't know. It's a good question to ask the higher-ups, the yogis. The innate eye-grasping mind grasps the I as if it existed on, or more literally above, the mere collection of aggregates, not on or above any one of the five aggregates individually, as if it were not merely imputed by conception. In other words, here I am piloting this whole ship of body and mind. I'm in charge. Where? Where are you standing? And who is this I anyway? Who's taken over? Yeah. No, this is a good exercise. It's very, very practical, and not hard to understand. I like that. In other words, it grasps the I as existing as it appears. So we have to learn not to do that. It's appearing a certain way. Take the word of those right now with faith, and go about your business of collecting merit, confession, etc., so you can improve your mind more to accept these truths more easily and deeply. Once it is clear to us that what the object of negation would be like if it existed, it is relatively easy to see such a thing couldn't exist. You have to spend some time on it, but that's all. No money, just time. But if we are not clear regarding the first essential point, we run the risk of negating the wrong thing. In engaging the Bodhisattva's conduct, chapter 9, verse 139, that's the wisdom chapter, Shantideva cautioned us that when the fantasized thing, the object of negation, hasn't been properly identified, its non-existence cannot be grasped. So you have to prove the non-existence of a thing that was properly identified. If it did exist, if it would exist, it would be like this. So that's it. So his two lines from verse 139, chapter 9 are, without having identified the object of negation, which is imputation, the absence of the object cannot be apprehended. So we may go through that chapter again. We did one time in class for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, I think. Tons of commentaries on it, by the way. There must be about 8 or 9 in English, besides the Panjika. So there's a lot. If you read that chapter, there's plenty of good stuff to comment on, including His Holiness has 2 of them. So, bottom of page 158, the object of negation, which is imputation, quote, he's explaining that quote, refers to the conceptual appearance of the object of negation, the conceptual appearance. Having identified means thinking if the object of negation existed, this is what it would be like. In other words, we need to have a clear conceptual picture of what inherent existence would be like if it existed. Conceptual. Without being able to identify the object negation, or without clearly understanding what it means to be self-existent, we will not be able to realize its absence, its emptiness. How are you going to see something directly if it doesn't exist, by the way? You'll see its lack, and that's a big shock. You see, like Sham was talking the other day, the marks of the Buddha and the Buddha himself are both not inherently existent. When you meditate on that, the object disappears. So you're meditating on the emptiness of the table or whatever, I don't know, I'm speaking something. That it disappears. And the mind meditating on it disappears into a clear vacuity. You come back. That's what I've heard. I have no experience in that area. But so we know when we have on this page 159 on now, we know when we have understood the first essential point and ascertain the object of negation when we have meditated and gained certainty through our own experience, not simply thinking it is so because we've heard others say it, that the way the I appears to the innate eye-grasping mind as if it inherently existed on the mere collection of the 5 aggregates. We can't just think, we have to find it out for ourselves because we're changing our minds, not everybody else's. So when we have ascertained the object of negation on one object, it is easy to ascertain it on all objects. Oh, good, because we don't have time for it. The generality is gone. There can be no particulars of it, However, Having identified the coarse object of negation, oh boy, now he brings down the whole crowd, on one particular object does not mean that we have identified the subtle object of negation on another object. Identifying what a self-sufficient, substantially existent person would be like is not the same as identifying what an inherently existent person would be like. Like, he's talking technical, and we'll get to that as we go through the four schools. Every school says, of Buddhist school, that is, that there's no independent, self-sufficient or independent, substantially existent person. Everybody agrees with that, but different schools take it more subtle than that. And the last school, the Prasangikas, say that their criteria is inherent existence, no such thing. So that's why he's mentioning that now. Recognizing the coarse object of negation on one object makes it easy to recognize the coarse object of negation on other objects. It is the same with recognizing the subtle object of negation. So once you get down to the subtle, do it once, you recognize all of them. That's the point. So there is, it does get technical next to, the end of this chapter. It goes through the four schools and everything else. But there's plenty of commentaries we can bring in. We can bring in some lighter material to help us along. This is kind of heavy. And if you're a new Buddhist, this is probably really tough because they're using words having meaning that we don't use in everyday life. Inherent existence, who uses that? Things like that. Grasping, we know what grasping is, but they have a technical meaning. So, the beautiful smile, all the examples of it, like the beautiful smile of her red-haired daughter. Right, all right, very nice. Somebody is thinking about women again. Bill, shame on you, you bad boy. Tony Costello we're praying for. Okay, Loretta died a few weeks ago. Who else? Good evening, good morning, rather, Kuala Lumpur. No, that's not Bodhisattva. I'm at my home. That's my cat, Babette, one of three. Bodhisattva will have his turn on the stage on Wednesday night. Don't worry. The Nepal plane crash victims we're praying for. Okay, all right. So, where are we? Where are we? Getting worse. They got to cart me away soon. But it better be in a nice ambulance. I prostrate to the omniscient one. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavad, Tathagata, Arahat, Samyak Sangbuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those along with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He's the father of bodhisattvas. He's the king of noble ones. He's the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats, who rise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The Holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy, and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. As a further cause for the swift return of Rato Chungla Rinpoche, His Holiness Dalai Lama recommends that we say this prayer for the flourishing of J. Tsong-kha-pa's teachings. On the website in the FAQ section where all the prayers are, scroll down to prayers. Though he is the father, producer of all conquerors, as a conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. When of yore in the presence of Buddha Indraketu, he made his vow, the conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. That the lineage of pure view and conduct might spread, he offered a white crystal rosary to the sage, who gave him a conch and prophesied, through this truth may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation cleansed of dark, fading and fog, his pure conduct practiced according to the conqueror's orders, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Learned, since he extensively sought out learning, reverent, rightly applying it to himself, good, dedicating all for beings and the doctrine, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scriptures, definitive and interpretive, were without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Listening to explanations of the three Pitakas, realized teachings, practiced of the three trainings, his skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calmed and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two stages practice, he allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Combining voidness explained as the causal vehicle, with great bliss achieved by method, the effect vehicle. Heart essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound, doctrine protectors, like the main guardians of the three beings' paths, the quick-acting Lord, Vaishravana, Karma-yama, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious Guru's lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, reverent holders of the teaching, and by the increase of the power of its patrons, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. So now we do 8 verses on training the mind. I used to say 8 verses of training the mind, but it's on training the mind. Oh boy, I'll be all right. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. The reason why I'm at home and not at the parsons is because Monday night is usually the night we we present Buddhist teachings. I don't teach, I present on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, but that place is not open that night yet. They don't have enough staff to staff it at night. But we intend to do our online podcasts from there in the future. So Monday night will be in New York City. Wednesday night will be in South Orange, New Jersey. And that's that. But we'll all be online. And the New York one will go 1 hour online and then a half hour for everybody to comment and, sing songs, whatever they wish to do, as they are wont to do. Anyway, it's kind of hard, this topic. Thank you for your patient listening. Big love to all of you. Wednesday night is our next class. What's the 18th, 7 o'clock.